Hey folks, today we have some vintage Apple hardware to talk about. This is the 1999 version of the Powerbook G3, which I believe is called the Lombard. And I've had this machine for months now, and it's been a companion to the clamshell iBook that I also have, and to the two white iBooks I still have as well, all G3 machines. This one's by far my favorite of all of them, and we're going to talk about why in this video. I would group this together with the clamshell iBook more than I would the white iBooks, though. So, you know. So, the Powerbook G3. It has Apple's design language of the professional variety in the 90s. I think that looks pretty streamlined. I love the look of these. So let's take a tour of the machine first. The front, you just have this little button you push in to open the latch. On the left side of the machine, you have a PCMCIA slot, vent, and the battery, which is still good in this machine, surprisingly. On the right side, of course, you have a CD-ROM drive, another vent, and a Kensington lock slot. The bottom of the machine has this rubberized texture to it, just like the top does. It also has a spec sheet down here. This machine has a 333 megahertz G3 processor in it with 512K of cache. It originally had 64 megs of RAM, but at some point in its life it was upgraded to 192. It originally had a 4 gig hard drive, which I promptly upgraded to an IDE SSD, and 8 megs of video RAM and a CD-ROM drive. So this is probably your normal configuration you got back in those days. A trip to everymac.com would probably confirm that for me, but that's probably a pretty typical configuration for 1999. Oh yeah, we didn't look at the ports yet. So the back of the machine. This is what makes these old PowerBooks so nice, is the I/O on them. First you start with the power socket, which is the barrel type connector that you would find on most older PowerBooks right up until the MacBook came out, or the new MacBook Pros. This is old enough to have an honest-to-goodness port door. Look at that. And the I/O on this thing is incredibly nice. Look at this. Line in, line out. 2 USB ports, USB 1.1, because it was 99 when this came out, Ethernet, HDI 30 SCSI, S-Video, VGA, and of course a modem so that you could connect to the internet. It was probably 56K. And of course below that's an IR sensor so you could sync your Palm Pilot at the time, because you're an important businessman and you have meetings and schedules. So there you have it. The I/O is what makes these laptops so special, and I'm glad I have the 1999 version of this, because this was the last PowerBook to come with HDI 30 SCSI. So if I happen to come across some HDI 30 SCSI devices, we can use this device to test them and look at them. So that's really nice. Let me plug in the laptop here. So let's open her up and take a look. It's a little dusty. It's been sitting around, so let's give her a little dusty off. That's better. Could use a wipe down too. That screen is full of fingerprints. So this is the machine. There you go. It's a pretty nice looking machine for the time. Where you might find a webcam today is an Apple logo, which is not a sticker, it's an actual like plastic decal thing. You have a fairly nice keyboard. Feels pretty good to type on. The trackpad is nice and smooth, probably because it's worn in. One big button down there. And unfortunately the plastic here is a bit cracked, as you can see. If I put my fingers under there, you can see it's a little cracked there. But not a big deal. The trackpad still works. So there you have it. I didn't get this laptop for a whole lot of money. I didn't expect it to be perfect. So, how about we boot this thing up, eh? Let's give it a shot. As I said before, I've installed an SSD in this thing. It was an IDE SSD I got from China, because it's pretty much the only place you can get those now. I believe it's a 32 gig that I put in here, so that's plenty of space for OS 9. More than enough, really. I have OS 9.2.1 on this machine, because I happen to have a disk for that. 922 could go on here, but the only point to 922 is classic support. 921 is good enough if you're just running OS 9 like I am. Pretty nice LCD display, active matrix as it would be for the late 90s. This IDE SSD, as you can see, is not very quick. It's about the speed of an old hard drive. And it just shut off for some reason. That was interesting. What the hell? Let's try that again. What just happened here? Let's try it again. Uh-oh. That could be a problem. Let me turn the Variac off here, and let's do some troubleshooting on camera. I'm going to take the battery out and see if that causes a problem. And that's a good opportunity to show how the battery comes out. It's a bit interesting in this machine. You take this wing out, and it pushes the battery out. There you go, battery. I'm wondering if the battery didn't make this machine just croak for some reason. So, took the battery out, turned the Variac back on. Let's turn the machine on. Come on. Well, that's a sad state of affairs. Wow, this laptop just went up and died on camera. Wow, man, that really sucks. Let me try putting the battery back in. Well, that's really bizarre. Power. There we go. We got to come back. Oh man, that was really weird. I'm wondering if the battery just isn't charged enough for it to be used as a ballast. I'm wondering if it isn't being used as a ballast at all in this machine to some degree when you boot it up. So let's try booting this up again and seeing what happens. The voltage is good on the Variac if you want to see that. Ooh, it's not happy. Something really went bad here. Wow. Wonder what happened there. That's really weird. Crazy stuff, man. What happens if I take the battery out? Okay. Still working without the battery in it. Okay, now it's booting. OS 9 definitely wasn't happy that it got interrupted from its startup. Well, that was a bit of an adventure. Anyway, let's take a look at this computer. There you go. macOS 9.2.1 is on here. There's your 192 megs of RAM and 193 of swap or virtual memory. System profiler is what we want. Okay, here we go. There's your RAM. So here's how it's configured. You have 64 megs on the bottom, but then there's also another 128 meg stick in there. 8 megs of video memory. No DVD decoder present. Let's see. There's your ROM revision numbers and stuff like that. Devices and volumes. Let's take a look at the CD-ROM drive. I believe this is just a plain old CD-ROM drive. And it's a Matsushita, abbreviated to Matshita for some reason. It doesn't really know what the hard drive is, but yeah, it's a 32 gigabyte King Spec SSD is what that is. It's an IDE SSD. This has ATI graphics. It appears to, at least appears to anyway. There's nothing in the card bus slot. And the screen is a 1024 by 768 display. A really nice one, actually. It looks really good, too. Bunch of control panels in here. Only one system folder. So, it's a pretty nice machine. Now, this machine, as far as capability, it's pretty similar. The two machines I have that are in this sort of age range are configured and capable of about the same things. And we went over that with the iBook. So, might as well take a look at a few things running on this computer. Let's do Alien Invaders. That was a funny one. Very funny one. So let's create a new game here. It's basically Space Invaders. It's with a mouse though. It's very, very weird. Damn it. Almost got him. Come on. Come on. You can do it. Well, I hit the trash can. That's good. Or the recycle bin. There, I beat a level. Now let's die because it's funny. I love how cheeky these programs were back in the day. Very funny. So, that's an old piece of old Mac software. There's even older stuff like this.
99 bottle of beer on the wall. 99 bottle of beer. Take one down, pass it around. 98 bottle of beer on the wall.
I have web browsers on here. I have ClassZilla. I have Doom 2. I have the Duraga 1 soundboard on here too. So,
Gradients! Gradients!
Also Duke Nukem 3D, Doom 2. So games like Doom will run. Macintosh. So you can play classic games on this. Let's see if I can play this one-handed. It's probably going to be pretty bad. Let me just see the frame rate. It's playable. Definitely playable. I forgot the button to shoot. Oh, it's F for fire. That's right. And there you go. It's decently smooth. You can play Doom 2 on this without much of an issue, even though the window is really small on a machine like this. You also have Duke Nukem 3D. Which I believe I have to run this cracked version here.
Macintosh.
That alert sound I have is a little bit weird. Yeah. I'm gonna play on my Macintosh. At least this isn't full screen. At least the menus are. I suspect the frame rate's not going to be very good.
Yeah, piece of cake. Damn.
Yeah, Duke Nukem looks great on this thing. Plays great too. Shoot the gun, man. How do I shoot the gun? Oh, I can just use the mouse too. Well, I'm using the trackpad to play this, which is horrible, by the way. I'm not doing too badly considering, but there you go. This plays pretty smoothly on this machine.
Macintosh.
So it's not really a bad machine to play games on, if you like a certain age of game. However, there are games that run too fast that I think are dependent on CPU speed or older CPUs. There's this one called Happy Weed, which is basically a parody of Pac-Man that's weed-themed. It's kind of funny.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
Yeah, see, that game runs entirely too fast. It's a similar problem you run into with software on DOS that depends on the timing of a CPU. Meep! Yeah, this game will probably only run on an 80s Mac or an early 90s Mac maybe, I'm not really sure, but that's a good example of one that doesn't really run that well. Then of course there are the old Bungie games, like Marathon and Marathon 2. I don't remember Marathon 2 running all that well, let's see. Look at Bungie's old stuff. How cool is that?
Let's go!
Oh no, this runs really well, actually.
See you, Starside.
It's got Marines and stuff in it. I don't know how to play the game because the controls are weird, but you can see it runs pretty well if you just look at the sprites there. I think Marathon 2 was more of a precursor to Halo than Marathon 1 was. I also have Office 98 on this machine to do very important work. It's 98 Macintosh edition, of course. You can see that little bit of delay induced by the SSD there. Hey look, it's the little helper Mac thingy. Let's see here. Make the font 72. It's in bold. There. Now it's important.
Macintosh.
Yes, Macintosh. But yeah, there you go. That's most of what this machine can do, it can run Oregon Trail and number munchers and a bunch of other stuff pretty easily. Stuff at Expander 5.5 on here. I've got my usual gamut of software on it. I even have iTunes on this thing with the heavy metal soundtrack and 128K MP3. So it's got some music on it, just for demonstration's sake. I can't play any of that because obviously copyright problems will persist, but I figured I'd give you a demonstration of this machine doing its thing. And we caught a moment of it acting really strange. Wonder what happens if I put the battery back in. Let's see. Is that going to make it die? Doesn't appear to be. And look, the battery thing shows up. So there you go. This has been a demonstration of the Powerbook G3. So let's shut this machine down. And let her sleep. Now, the Powerbook G3 of the 90s was a pretty streamlined machine. It was sleek, it was sexy at the time, it was nice. It looked like a professional machine, at least by Apple standards. Well, you can tell the design language completely changed going into the 2000s. This is a Powerbook G4 from 2003, and the design language is completely different. You can see it's much more squared off, there's less angles and less of a bulbous design, it's thinner. This is where Apple started to become the Apple that we know today. Much sleeker design, much more squared off, much more neat and tidy. Whereas this was a bit more frivolous and fun, I would say, on this end of the spectrum there. So you can tell that the screens got wider, things got more squared off, and you know, had a kind of a 60s inspired industrial design, I think. Whereas this was more, you know, fun, I think. I like this design better. And when they went over to this design, many flaws came up. The keyboard would often rub and scratch the screen. I think it would on this sometimes too, but a lot more so on these. The little piece of metal here would bow out. Slot loading optical drives themselves had a problem. So the design language changed a lot over the years. This one's also harder to work on. If you take the keyboard off of this, the hard drive is literally right down there. So it's one of the easiest old Macs to work on, and that's one of the reasons it's my favorite of the whole lot. So sure, we'll do a video about this Powerbook G4 eventually when there's something worth demonstrating with it. I think I've already done a video on a Powerbook G4 on this channel before, but I happen to get this one in a trade. So we have one for reference now for moments like this where we're looking at computer design. So that's how. This is 1999. This is 2003. Just 4 years later, drastic changes. So kind of crazy how industrial design evolves. So there you go. That was a demonstration and a look at the Powerbook G3 Lombard from 1999. If you'd like to find me on social media, that's down in the description. I'm on Twitter and Reddit. And I encourage you to join our Discord community as well to discuss, well, almost anything really, but a lot of tech. And there you have it. Subscribe if you like. Hit the bell if you think I'm that important. And have a good one, everybody. Ciao.